If you train hard and eat pretty good but have no progress, you might be lacking proper recover. Here's the truth. If your sleep is messy, your progress is capped. In this video, you'll learn what sleep actually does for muscle, strength, and cutting, how REM and deep sleep affect recovery and performance, and a simple routine you can run tonight to start getting results faster. You can watch this video while you work out and learn while you train. Part 1. What sleep does for strength, muscle, and fat loss. If you treat sleep like a nice extra, you will keep paying for it in the gym. Training is the signal, but sleep is where your body cashes it in. Every hard set is controlled stress on purpose, and that stress only becomes stronger muscle and better performance if recovery finishes the job. When sleep is short, you walk into today's session still carrying yesterday's fatigue, so the same program stops working the way it should. When sleep is solid, adaptation actually happens. You add reps, add load, and you stay sharp long enough for progressive overload to do its job. Sleep shows up first in training quality. With good sleep, reaction time is sharper, coordination is smoother, and your brain stays patient enough to execute the plan instead of improvising. With poor sleep, perceived effort climbs, so even warm-up weights feel heavier than they should. You rush rest times, lose focus between sets, and your pain tolerance drops, so you quit early or grind with sloppy form. That matters for everything from a heavy squat, triple, to a high-rep leg press set, because technique is what keeps intensity productive instead of risky. Muscle growth is not just about protein and sets, it is about repair and remodeling. During sleep, especially in deeper non-rapid eye movement sleep earlier in the night, your body shifts toward tissue repair and rebuilding. The micro damage from lifting is processed, and the next layer of strength is constructed so the same load becomes easier later. If you wake up after a short night with heavy legs and stiff joints, that is often incomplete recovery, not just soreness. The workout stimulus is unfinished business, so your next session starts from a deficit instead of building on momentum. Sleep also protects your nervous system, which is the hidden driver of strength. Muscle fatigue is local, like a biceps that won't curl anymore. Central fatigue is different. It is your brain and spinal cord turning down output like a dimmer switch. Short sleep pushes that dimmer down, so explosive power drops first. Sprints feel flat, jumps feel slow, and heavy sets that should move fast suddenly grind. If you run compounds like squats, deadlifts, presses, and rows for sets of 3 to 6 reps, sleep helps keep your motor control crisp, which is the difference between a strong rep and a sloppy rep. Now the fat loss side, because this is where people blame discipline when the real issue is biology. Short sleep makes cravings louder and self-control quieter because your brain starts chasing quick energy and comfort. That is why you can track calories tightly for a few days, then feel out of control around snacks after a bad night. It is not a character flaw, it is your nervous system trying to solve a low-energy state. When sleep improves, cravings usually get less aggressive and your food decisions get easier, which makes a steady deficit realistic instead of a daily battle. There is also a metabolic angle that hits both beginners and advanced athletes. Short sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity, meaning your body handles carbs less efficiently and blood sugar regulation becomes less stable. In real life, that can look like weaker training energy, worse pumps, and more frequent hunger swings that pull you off plan. You might still hit your macros on paper, but it feels harder and your day turns into constant snack math. When you sleep well, glucose control tends to improve, and you get more stable energy, more stable hunger, and better training output. Recovery is also about staying healthy enough to train consistently, because consistency is the real secret in bodybuilding. Sleep supports immune function and helps regulate inflammation, so small problems don't become big ones. When sleep is short for multiple nights, minor colds show up more easily and nagging aches hang around longer. That matters if you train 3 to 5 times per week and aim to progress week after week. You do not build a physique from one perfect workout. You build it from months where you show up, keep adding small progressions, and avoid setbacks. Hormones are where the internet gets dramatic, so here is the useful version. Growth hormone does pulse more during sleep, especially earlier in the night alongside deeper sleep. That does not mean you need a mystical hack to grow. It means deep, consistent sleep supports the background work of recovery, tissue repair, connective tissue maintenance, and adaptation to training stress. You will not feel a growth hormone pulse like a stimulant. You feel the impact as better recovery between sessions, less joint irritation, and a body that is ready to train again on schedule. Testosterone matters too, but again, think practical, not hype. Adequate sleep supports normal testosterone, and repeated short nights can push levels down. The performance translation is simple. Poor sleep can reduce training drive, make heavy work feel mentally harder, and slow recovery. In a gaining phase where you are pushing progressive overload, maybe 10 to 20 hard sets per muscle group per week, depending on your level, sleep helps you tolerate that workload without crashing. If sleep is low, you stall sooner, you feel flat, and you start program hopping because nothing feels good. Cortisol is not the enemy. It is a normal hormone that helps you wake up and mobilize energy. The goal is a predictable rhythm, higher in the morning, lower at night. Late night stress, bright screens, and irregular sleep times can shift that rhythm later, making you feel wired at bedtime and sluggish in the morning. That pattern sabotages training because mornings feel heavy and evenings feel restless. When your rhythm is steady, you get cleaner mornings, better readiness to train, and more stable energy, appetite, and focus across the entire day. Appetite hormones are a big reason cutting feels brutal on low sleep. Leptin and ghrelin influence satiety and hunger, and short sleep tends to weaken satiety while raising hunger. So even if you do everything right, you feel less satisfied from the same meal. This is why a high-protein plan, often something like 150 to 200 grams per day depending on body size, is easier to execute when sleep is solid. Sleep supports appetite control, and appetite control is what keeps your calorie target consistent enough for fat loss to actually happen. Here is the real-world outcome you should care about. Sleep turns good programming into results. For strength, it helps you coordinate force and recover from heavy work, so your triples and fives stay crisp and your technique holds under pressure. For hypertrophy, it helps you tolerate the volume required for growth, like multiple sets in the 6 to 15 rep range taken close to failure without turning every session into a survival test. For conditioning, it improves pace control and reduces the feeling that every interval is a max effort, which lets you build work capacity without burning out. So keep it simple and actionable. If you can fix only one thing this week, set a consistent wake time and protect it like a workout. That anchors your body clock and makes falling asleep easier over time. If you can fix two things, add a wind-down cue and cut late caffeine, because both directly affect sleep onset and depth. A wind-down cue can be as simple as dimming lights, putting your phone away, and doing 10 minutes of easy mobility after your last meal. Progress is not about perfection. It is about repeating the basics until your training finally matches your goals. Part 2. Sleep stages: REM, deep sleep, and light sleep. Sleep is not an on-off switch. It is a structured process your body uses to rebuild performance. If you want stronger lifts, better recovery, and easier fat loss, you need to understand what actually happens after you fall asleep. Across a normal night, your brain moves through repeating cycles that tend to last around 90 minutes, give or take. Each cycle contains lighter non-rapid eye movement sleep, deeper non-rapid eye movement sleep, and rapid eye movement sleep. Your job is not to micromanage stages. Your job is to set conditions so those cycles can run smoothly, night after night. Early in the night, your sleep is usually heavier, and that matters for training adaptation. Deep, non-rapid eye movement sleep, often called slow-wave sleep, is more front-loaded, meaning you typically get more of it in the first part of the night. This is one reason consistent bedtime matters for athletes. If you regularly cut sleep short or push bedtime later and still wake early, you often steal time from the section of the night most connected to physical restoration. If your training includes hard compounds and challenging volume, deep sleep is part of how you survive that workload. Deep sleep supports the physical reset side of performance. During this stage, your nervous system shifts toward recovery, immune support improves, and your body favors tissue repair and restoration. Growth hormone pulses are more pronounced during the earlier part of the night and are linked with deeper sleep, which helps repair connective tissue and supports adaptation to training stress. This is not a magic shortcut to muscle, but it is a real multiplier on the basics you already know: progressive overload, enough protein, and enough total calories for your goal. When deep sleep is disrupted, you feel it as heavy legs, persistent soreness, and workouts that never feel fully online. Deep sleep also helps lock in motor patterns, which is huge if you want better technique and safer heavy training. When you practice a skill like squatting with stable bracing or pressing with consistent bar path, your brain refines that pattern after training, and sleep is when much of that refinement gets consolidated. That is why a lifter can repeat the same cues for weeks, and suddenly the movement clicks. If you train 3 to 5 days per week, especially with compound lifts in the 3 to 8 rep range, deep sleep helps your body come back ready to repeat quality reps instead of fighting sloppy mechanics. You can accidentally sabotage deep sleep with a few common habits that look harmless on the surface. Alcohol is a big one because it tends to fragment sleep and reduce the depth of early night recovery, even if you fall asleep faster. Overheating is another, because your body needs to cool slightly to transition into deeper sleep, so a warm room or heavy blankets can keep you lighter than you realize. Late heavy meals affect some people too, especially if they cause reflux or raise body temperature. Stress and an irregular schedule are also powerful disruptors, because the brain stays on alert and resists dropping into deeper stages. Rapid eye movement sleep is the other major pillar, and it is about brain performance. REM is strongly associated with memory integration, emotional regulation, and learning complex skills. If you want consistent motivation and sharper focus in the gym, REM matters because it helps your brain process stress and stabilize mood. It also supports creativity and problem solving, which sounds abstract until you realize that training is constant problem solving, adjusting technique, pacing sets, managing effort, and making smart decisions when energy is not perfect. Athletes who ignore sleep often blame willpower, but the brain's recovery system is a real limiter. REM tends to increase later in the night, often closer to morning. That timing creates a classic trap. Sleeping a short night may not only reduce total sleep time, it can disproportionately cut the REM-heavy portion of the night. The real-life result is that you might get through the day, but your brain feels more reactive, more stressed, and less patient. In the gym, that often shows up as poor pacing, worse decision-making, and a higher chance you quit early or chase a random personal record when you should be executing controlled work. More sleep is not just more time, it is more of the right stages. Light non-rapid eye movement sleep gets disrespected, but it is not wasted. Light sleep is the transition space that allows your body to move safely and repeatedly into deeper sleep and REM. It supports basic maintenance, helps regulate heart rate and breathing patterns across the night, and acts like the connector that keeps the architecture stable. If you wake briefly and think you were awake for a long time, that may be because you surfaced into lighter sleep, which is normal. The goal is not to eliminate light sleep. The goal is to reduce unnecessary interruptions so the transitions stay smooth. This is where sleep quantity and sleep quality need to be understood correctly. Quantity is the foundation because without enough total sleep time, you simply do not have enough cycles to cover both physical restoration and brain recovery. Quality is the multiplier because even long time in bed can be low quality if it is fragmented or mistimed. For fitness goals, quantity typically shows up first in energy, appetite control, and training drive. Quality shows up in how ready you feel, how stable your mood is, and how quickly soreness resolves. You need both, but you win by securing enough total sleep first. One of the most common misconceptions is, I can function on 5 hours. You might function, but performance is the question, not survival. In training terms, functioning can still mean weaker output, slower reaction time, lower pain tolerance, and worse coordination. If you are aiming for muscle gain, that can quietly reduce the number of effective reps you produce each week, even if you still show up. If you are cutting, it can increase cravings and make adherence harder. The same program can produce different results depending on whether sleep lets you execute hard sets with focus and consistent technique. Sometimes you sleep 8 hours and still feel tired, and that does not mean sleep is useless. It can mean sleep debt from previous nights is still being repaid, because one good night does not erase a week of short nights. It can also mean your schedule shifted and your body clock is misaligned, like when you sleep late on weekends and feel groggy on weekdays. Stress can keep sleep lighter and alcohol can fragment it, so the clock says 8 hours, but the cycles were messy. If you regularly wake unrefreshed, snore loudly, or feel sleepy during the day, it is worth talking to a healthcare professional because breathing-related sleep issues can block recovery. Wearables can help, but only if you treat them like a dashboard, not a judge. They are useful for tracking trends like bedtime consistency, wake time stability, and total sleep time across the week. They are less reliable for precise sleep staging because most consumer devices estimate stages indirectly and can be wrong on any single night. The smart way to use them is to look at weekly averages and patterns, how your sleep changes when you train late, when caffeine is late, or when you drink alcohol. If a device score makes you anxious, ignore the score and focus on the habits that consistently raise performance. Now connect sleep stages to training timing because this is where you turn knowledge into results. Some people feel strongest later in the day, others feel best in the morning, and that is partly genetics and partly routine. If you train in the morning, prioritize a consistent wake time and morning light exposure so your body clock supports alertness and coordination. If you train in the evening, your goal is to finish hard work early enough that your nervous system can downshift before bed. Heavy, high-intensity training too close to bedtime can keep body temperature and adrenaline elevated, which may delay sleep onset and reduce deep sleep. Finally, you need a simple rule for adjusting training based on sleep because real life happens. When you sleep well and feel sharp, run the plan and push progression, especially on compound lifts where performance matters. When you sleep poorly once, keep the habit but reduce volume slightly, like trimming one hard set from big movements or stopping a set 1 rep earlier than planned while keeping technique tight. When you sleep poorly for several nights, prioritize recovery by lowering load or volume, focusing on controlled reps in the 8 to 12 range, and leaving more reps in reserve so you keep momentum without digging a deeper fatigue hole. Part 3. Sleep routines that actually work. If you want your physique and performance to move forward consistently, you need a sleep system, not random good nights when life is convenient. Treat sleep like macros. You are not chasing perfection. You are chasing targets you can repeat. When sleep becomes predictable, training becomes predictable. And that is where progress lives. Think in terms of a sleep window that matches your schedule and your training load. If you train hard 3 to 5 days per week with challenging sets near failure, your body usually needs more total recovery than someone doing light activity. Build the plan around reality, then execute it like a program. Start with the highest return lever: consistency. A fixed wake time is the anchor that sets your body clock, and that clock controls when you feel alert and when you feel sleepy. If you wake at wildly different times, your sleep pressure and hormones drift, and bedtime becomes a negotiation every night. Pick a wake time you can hold most days, even on weekends, and you will notice that sleep onset becomes easier without trying. For a lifter, this matters because consistent wake time supports consistent meal timing, consistent training energy, and consistent appetite control, which directly supports your goals. Light is the next lever, and it is one of the most underrated performance tools. Bright light in the morning tells your brain it is daytime, helps set your circadian rhythm, and improves alertness and mood. This is not about motivation quotes, it is physiology. Get outside early when possible, or at least expose your eyes to bright indoor light soon after waking. In the evening, do the opposite by dimming your environment so your brain can shift into sleep mode. The issue with screens is not that they are evil, it is that bright, close light late at night can delay melatonin and push your sleep later, especially if you scroll intensely right before bed. Stimulants and depressants are the third lever, and they can quietly ruin an otherwise solid routine. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine, the chemical pressure that builds across the day and makes you sleepy at night. That is why caffeine feels like energy, even though it is really masking tiredness. If you use it too late, you delay sleep pressure and can reduce sleep depth even when you do fall asleep. Alcohol is the classic trap on the other side. It can make you drowsy at first, but it fragments sleep later and tends to reduce the quality of deep sleep and REM, which are the stages you need for recovery. A caffeine protocol that respects performance starts with intent. Use caffeine as a tool for workouts that matter, not a constant drip that keeps you in survival mode. Most people do better with a cutoff window that is several hours before bedtime because caffeine can linger in the body and continue to block sleep pressure. The exact cutoff varies by person, but if you notice trouble falling asleep or restless sleep, move caffeine earlier and watch what happens over a week. Also avoid stacking, where coffee, pre-workout, and an energy drink pile up without you noticing the total dose. If you train in the afternoon or evening and rely on pre-workout, make it strategic. Take caffeine far enough before training that it helps performance, then let it clear before bedtime. If your workout is late, consider using a non-caffeine pre-workout approach, like a longer warm-up, music, and a tighter plan for your working sets. Your training quality comes from execution, not stimulants. If you are doing a hypertrophy session with 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps per movement, close to failure, the biggest driver of progress is consistency and effort, not an extra stimulant that costs you sleep and reduces tomorrow's readiness. Now build a pre-sleep routine you can actually keep because complicated routines fail when life gets busy. You want a shutdown ritual that runs the same way most nights, lasting around 20 to 40 minutes. The purpose is to reduce stimulation and create a clear cue that the day is over. A warm shower can help by raising skin temperature and then allowing a drop afterward, which supports sleep onset. Preparing tomorrow's essentials reduces mental noise so you do not lie awake planning the day. Then shift to low-light, low-input activities like reading or a simple audio track that does not pull you into problem-solving mode. Temperature is a powerful lever because your body needs to cool slightly to fall asleep efficiently. A cooler room often supports faster sleep onset and deeper sleep, especially after hard training. If you wake sweaty, toss covers on and off, or feel restless, this is a clue that your environment is fighting your physiology. Use lighter bedding, airflow, or adjust the room temperature so you feel cool but comfortable. For many athletes, this single change improves sleep quality fast, which shows up in better morning readiness and better performance on compound lifts where coordination and nervous system output matter. Bedroom cues matter more than people want to admit. Darkness supports sleep because light signals daytime, and even small light sources can disturb some people. If you cannot fully darken the room, a sleep mask is a simple fix that costs little and can pay back every night. Noise is similar. Some people are fine, others wake easily. White noise can mask unpredictable sounds, which helps you stay asleep through lighter stages. The goal is not a perfect sleep cave. It is reducing disruptions so your sleep cycles can run without constant interruptions that steal deep sleep and REM. Naps are an advanced tool, but they can be practical if you use them correctly. If you slept short the night before, or you are in a heavy training block where fatigue is accumulating, a short nap can restore alertness and improve training performance. A nap around 10 to 20 minutes often boosts energy without leaving you groggy because it avoids deep sleep. Longer naps can work too, but they may affect bedtime if taken too late. If you nap late afternoon or evening, you can reduce sleep pressure and delay your nighttime sleep, which creates a cycle of late nights and tired mornings. Training timing also affects sleep, and you can make it work either way if you respect physiology. Late high-intensity training, like heavy squats, hard intervals, or high-volume leg work, can keep your nervous system aroused and your body temperature elevated. That does not mean you cannot train late. It means you need a downshift plan afterward. Use a longer cool down, lower the intensity of the last few minutes, and avoid going straight from maximal effort into bright screens and heavy mental work. If your goal is to add muscle with consistent training, protecting sleep after hard sessions is a performance move, not a lifestyle preference. Nutrition timing matters for sleep, especially for athletes who train hard and need recovery. Going to bed starving can disrupt sleep, but going to bed overly full can also cause discomfort and fragmented sleep for some people. A practical approach is a balanced evening meal with adequate protein to support muscle repair, plus carbs if they help you relax and refuel, especially after training. Carbs are not magic, but they can support recovery by restoring glycogen and may help some people feel more settled at night. Keep it practical. Eat enough to support your goals, then time it so digestion is not fighting sleep. Hydration is another simple performance detail. Being dehydrated hurts training, but chugging water right before bed often creates bathroom wake-ups that fragment sleep. The solution is not to drink less overall. It is to distribute fluids earlier in the day and taper closer to bedtime. If you are training, sweating, and hitting steps, build hydration into your daytime routine so nighttime is not a panic catch-up. Better sleep continuity improves recovery, and recovery improves training quality. This is the chain that leads to better body composition over time because your workouts become consistent and your appetite becomes more manageable. Travel, shift changes, and imperfect weeks are where systems prove their value. When life disrupts your schedule, you need a minimum plan that keeps your body clock stable. Protect your wake time as much as possible. Get morning light early, reduce caffeine, and start wind down sooner to compensate for stress and schedule drift. If you have a late night, do not sleep in aggressively the next day because that can shift your rhythm and make the next night worse. Instead, keep wake time close to normal and use a short nap if needed to protect training. Weekend social jet lag is a big hidden problem for athletes. If you stay up late and wake late on weekends, then wake early on Monday, you have essentially flown across time zones. That Monday fatigue often leads to weaker training, worse cravings, and poor adherence, and people blame motivation. The fix is to keep weekend wake time closer to weekday wake time, even if bedtime shifts slightly. If you want to stay out late, shift by a small amount and then return quickly. You do not need to live like a monk. You need to avoid swinging your body clock hard twice a week. There are also red flags where you should stop trying to optimize and instead get professional help because performance and health are on the line. Loud snoring combined with daytime sleepiness, waking up choking or gasping, or persistent insomnia can signal issues like sleep apnea or other sleep disorders. Restless leg symptoms can also disrupt sleep quality severely. These are not minor inconveniences. They can reduce recovery, impair metabolic health, and keep you stuck no matter how perfect your training plan is. Treat it like any other bottleneck. Identify it, address it, and remove it. Now build your plan based on your level, because a beginner and an advanced athlete need different complexity. If you are newer, keep it simple for 2 weeks and focus on consistency. Lock in a fixed wake time, move caffeine earlier, and run a short shutdown ritual at night. Keep training realistic, like 3 to 4 workouts per week with full body or upper-lower structure, and avoid turning every set into a max effort while your sleep routine stabilizes. As sleep improves, you will feel better energy, better appetite control, and more consistent strength from session to session. If you are advanced, you can layer in optimization without losing the basics. Use naps strategically during high-volume blocks. Adjust caffeine like you would adjust training intensity, and align your hardest sessions with your best-slept days. If you run a heavy strength day with low reps and high load, protect the night before and after, like it is part of the workout. During deload weeks, keep wake time consistent and use the easier training to rebuild sleep depth and rhythm. The goal is simple: make sleep predictable, make training repeatable, and your body will have no choice but to adapt. If you want to turn this into real progress, make sleep part of your program, not an afterthought. Start by locking in a consistent wake time for the next 2 weeks, even on weekends, because that's what stabilizes your body clock and makes falling asleep easier. Then set a realistic sleep window and protect it like a workout session. If you're pushing hard in the gym 3 to 5 days per week, your recovery needs to match that workload, or your best training will never show up. Next, control the 2 biggest sleep killers for lifters: late caffeine and bright evenings. Move caffeine earlier until you can fall asleep fast and stay asleep, and stop stacking coffee plus pre-workout plus energy drinks. At night, dim the lights, cool the room, and run the same shutdown routine so your brain gets a clear cue that the day is done. If you trained late, add a downshift after the session so you're not carrying adrenaline into bed. Finally, adjust training based on sleep instead of forcing hero workouts. After one bad night, keep the habit but cut a little volume and keep reps clean. After several bad nights, pull back intensity and focus on controlled work so you recover without breaking momentum. Do that, and you'll notice better training quality, easier appetite control, and faster body composition changes without changing your entire life.